Right. Got it. All right. I want to be able to share my screen with everyone. Welcome to Dorsey's Resource. I wanted this video to be about the Wizard of Oz's connection to redemption education, deciphering the Wizard of Oz connection. I'm going to click share screen. Okay, I want to share, there we go, my PDF files. Okay. So I have a redemption manual pulled up. I have the, I'm not going to read the whole section. Okay, we got some feedback. Be about the Wizard of Oz's connection to redemption education. Okay, I'm muted myself out. That was on my other screen. Well, welcome everyone. Hopefully I just deleted the previous video. Now, there may be some noise in the background. I don't intend to be before you guys that long. I may have to do a follow-up video. I intended to mark this as part one because this is a lot to unpack. It's been a topic that I've been meaning to address, go over for a while. I have touched on it in the past. However, I wanted you all to be able to see the documents. I want to basically be able to decipher. A lot of people don't know the movie Wizard of Oz is related to those who study so-called sovereignty, sovereign education, whatever name label you call it. I don't profess to be what they call a sovereign citizen. A citizen is actually an oxymoron, contradiction, because a citizen is a slave. It's a subject. You can't be both. It was even some people that told me you can't use two nouns or something like that, the way they combine it together, similar to conspiracy theory. They're two separate words, but when they want to put a label on things to discredit something and discredit people from looking into it, that's they come up with these umbrella terms, by the way. But just keep in mind, I talk about the legitimate side. I'm not saying you don't have things of that sort out there, like scams of people being duped by things. But I talk about, I delve into the legitimate side from my research. I'm a forensic researcher. I do very in-depth microscopic forensic research, not in terms of dead bodies or nothing. If you look up the subject of forensic science, it gets into in-depth look. If you read the definition of forensics, I'm a forensic researcher where I look at things, I go very in depth. This information, there's a lot of layers to unpack because a lot of people in our everyday society don't understand what you're taught. And the school system, the educational system, is far from what we really should have been learning from. Not only, I say, going all the way back, not just to all the way, I say, to elementary school. We should have been learning civics back then that deals with the law, not just in high school or middle school. Some don't even start until college, by the way. We should have been learning that along. But on top of that, the information that we're being taught is encrypted because there's another system that my friend refers to. The shadow people use the ruling class, the upper echelon, the people behind the curtain, behind the scenes. Some may be referred to as the Illuminati. My friend calls them the Lale Lulelo. By the way, I think that was from a video game called Metal Gear. Put some encrypt. See, they put this stuff not only in movies, but video games. There's a connection. But I wanted to kind of give you guys a background and deciphering. That's why I have the redemption manual pulled up. This section is called the coded movie of what really happened to America. Believe my screen is kind of blocking the part where I'm, so I wanted you guys to be able to see. I'm doing a screen share, so I'm just gonna go through it briefly. Like I said, I might have to do a follow-up, but I wanted to show, because a lot of people that are newbies that start learning this for the first time, it's very important. This is good for the basics to understand. For those out there, non-believers, there was a lot of encrypted things in that movie that dealt with this world that we operate in. There's a fictional side and how you enter into contracts, how you conduct business. By the way, that's not a coincidence that the straw person in that movie, if you remember the straw man, and then you've heard people refer to that term. Did you know there's an actual legal meaning, what that term means, and legalese. And you know, legalese, you can look up the definition of that terminology, by the way. That means it's been used to replace plain English within a court system. It's specific language that they use in a court system. If you study the history of this English language, by the way, there's a connection to the Latin language, from what I understand. Many of these languages that we have learned have a source of origin where they come from. And there was even a version compared to the type of English that the way the dialect that we speak in our modern day society, where it goes way back. There was even a form called Old English that was like broken up, by the way, where if you were taken back in time, it would be hard maybe to understand some of the terms that if you were speaking to someone from hundreds of years ago when they were using Old English. Just like you have different versions of the Bible, it's not a coincidence in the way we interpret information. But I thought it was very important to go over this topic for newbies out there, people that have asked me questions that said they're still beginners. I get messages from time to time. So like I said, to reiterate, I'm not going to be before you guys that long. Hopefully, I probably will have to do a follow-up video, but I just wanted to cover. I lost the page. I can shoot back up. Okay, we're close. We're in the section. Let me scroll back up. Okay. Okay, as many of you all know, the 10-man stood for your tax identification number. By the way, the Scarecrow represented the fictitious entity, the conduit that you use when you go between the interface with the public. Because in order to do business, the person, if you look up the definition of the word person, individual, which I covered, is very important. That doesn't mean just a human being, like a physical live man. And when you engage in contracts with the government in order to do business, they created these entities as a transmitting utility for you to, whenever you sign your John Hancock through your signature, by the way, is when you enter into certain types of contracts, certain types of agreements. By the way, this is factual information. In the court system, the straw man is referred to as the in lingus. By the way, it's in lingus. If you look up the definition of in lingus, it's a Latin term for artificial person, artificial being, just like the entity in the movie Wizard of Oz. Also, the Tin Man and the Cowardly Lion were artificial beings. The lion also represented Americans who lose their courage going up against the system. It has some other meanings, or get beat down. Tin Man is pretty obvious how they turn people, when you enter into these contracts, into taxpayer identification numbers, where the IRS, Internal Revenue Service, has a private side. Someone contacted me not too long ago and said they believe that they had stumbled across that the IRS had a private side. Yes, they do. But to confirm, I wanted to consult my confidants behind the scene, who are more, I would say, more knowledgeable than myself, who I've known for a number of years. Names I will not say, very reliable private sources. And I wanted to get their input, and they gave me some very good input. For example, the red forms, the 1099, symbolize the private side of the IRS, but some of the black forms are actually connected to the private side, believe it or not, because there's a public side. The public is the statutory, and then the private side deals with equity, common law. By the way, remember, if you go back to the Erie Railroad versus Tompkins case of 1938, look up the Erie Railroad versus Tompkins case, where it changed. Many of the courts in this country were common law. They operated under common law. This is a fact. Did you know many corporations that started off in the early 1900s, believe they said, don't quote me on it, and I shouldn't say believe. However, I encourage to do their own research, is that many of these major corporations started off as common law express trust, by the way, which are very unique type of trust, by the way. Just putting it out there, some new information I came across some months ago when I was doing touching on a series, business law, by the way, which has this information encoded, encrypted. So my laptop is running real slow. If I find the way this book is, it skips over, but I have another window pulled up, by the way, where it starts off talking about the Wizard of Oz. We're on page 31. So I just wanted to give you guys a quick rundown of the information. It's talking about the movie. It gives like a disclaimer in here that this information may be shocking to a lot of people. Many of you all who already follow me, most of you all already red pilled, but some of you all may be blue pilled. I normally give a disclaimer, so keep in mind, I forgot to do that. This video is going to be for educational, informational, and entertainment purposes only. Please understand everyone's individual circumstance or situation may be different. It's up to every individual competent person to please do his or her own homework and research regarding the matter being discussed. This information is not to be construed as legal advice. In the event you feel you need to seek a competent professional, it is encouraged you do so at one's own leisure. Dorsey's Resource Channel is not liable or responsible for anyone's individual misuse of the information. Please keep in mind, everyone is responsible for their own commercial affairs. With that being said, all rights are reserved. Now let's get into this. It says, just as you can read between the glory lines in the newspaper on any given day in America, you can discover clues and truths slipped in by the powers that be if you look hard enough as to what is actually going on. Such notice can also be found in somewhat lighter fare, the movies. As you well know, movies have become the national pastime of entertainment. Millions go to the movies. VHS tapes and DVDs fill in the rest of the gap. As you can tell, this article was older. We now have Blu-rays. We're in the future. The storyline, topics, and time frames vary as to the manuscript and the vision of the directors. Such a movie was The Wizard of Oz, an allegory for the new state of affairs in America in the 1930s. This actually goes prior. I found out from a relative that the book was written when the book was done sometime in the early 1900s, around the time, not shortly after the Federal Reserve Act was created in 1913. The book, one of the books that was done in 1914 prior to the movie, because I found out many years ago when I was younger that many movies are based off of books first, before they made a movie or story, just like the Hunger Games. That was based off the books of Susan Collins. I believe that was the author or creator of that particular series, and they did a movie. Well, similarly, a story years ago, when the books were written, Dorothy had silver slippers, according to the books. Now, when the movie came out, they changed the story a little bit where she wore red slippers. Now, when the book was done, when she wore silver slippers, that represented right after the time when that book was first published. The Federal Reserve Act had just passed in 1913, but they were still in the process of implementing things. This is before the Great Depression. That they stated the allegory when she wore the silver slippers and she followed the yellow brick road, that symbolized the silver following the gold out the country. There was a process where this was planned out, as you can see ahead of time. This movie was encrypted, and I just plan on deciphering. Some of you are already familiar with this story. I should say many of you all, but many newbies may not be, but it's important that you go over this so it will help you understand not only the allegories, but even the grammar, the rules to grammar, because there was another document where your all caps, your straw man deals with capitis diminutio maxima, by the way, where this goes back many years ago to Roman ecclesiastical times, a particular time period. A friend of mine even deciphered there's a connection with sovereignty that deals with Greek mythology, or if you study the god Hermes and where they get these different entities from. And some of these entities are named even after some of our establishment buildings and government, where they're like Capitol Hill comes from Capitoline Hill. There's a whole history behind this. Just giving you guys an idea for those who don't really study history, there's a connection to all this. So I'm tying this in, as you see, to help you connect the dots, to help you connect the pieces, because many people's comprehension level is only on a certain level. So what I'm attempting to do, like I said, I'll probably have to do a follow-up, but I've been meaning to cover this for a while. So enough of that. I'm scroll down pretty fast. by the way. It's given a breakdown, by the way. So I'm gonna scroll back up. There's some other important key parts. I may not have the time. I may shut this down before I go over everything. Okay, I read that part. Some parts I may not read because this document, and I haven't even got to the other document specifically that goes over the allegory, connect very similarly, by the way. So it says The Wizard of Oz is not just a movie for children, though perceived today it is, and it has become a national icon of a historical nature, replayed every year on television just for the children. Yeah, that is true. What is missed by most is the symbolism in the movie and almost every character and aspects of the set and so-called special effects and props back then. After reading this article and then seeing the movie again, it will never be the same to you or your children. The setting was Kansas, heartland. Geographically, Kansas is the geographical center of the United States. This is where it's getting ready. Well, actually, it's talking about that before I even pulled that up. It says the geographical center of the USA. In comes the twister, the tornado, whirling confusion of the stock market crash that left everybody economically dizzy. See the symbolism, economically dizzy from the tornado in the movie. It signified the theft of America's gold, the coming U.S. bankruptcy, the Great Depression. The tornado whisked Dorothy and Toto. Toto is actually a Latin term. From what I remember, it means similar to when you're at a cash register or you're about to purchase an item, or you're in a fast food restaurant, you ask, what's my total? It's an Italian term for everything, means all, the tally. But it's an Italian word. It translates to everything. From what I was informed, that's what Toto means, not just Toto, the dog, but it's also translates in Italian or Latin to total, meaning everything. By the way, all. Like, what is, you ask the cashier, what is my total? Entire fee. You guys get it. So up in a new artificial dreamlike dimension somewhere above the solid ground of Kansas, when Dorothy awakes, she finds herself in the land of Oz. Dorothy comments to her little companion Toto, I have a feeling we're not in Kansas anymore. That's right. After the bankruptcy, Kansas was no longer just plain old Kansas. That was also symbolic as well. It was now in capital KS, an artificial corporate venue of the bankrupt United States. This is important to pay attention to even how terms are spelled. So I went over the term, look up the definition of legalese. That's why in the court system it's been used to get over on the average man, to create trickery, to force everyone to have to get a lawyer, say, we will appoint one for you. There's things that kind of go into stuff like that later on, but I'm just tying this in really quick because I'm probably going to shut this video down. And plus there may be in a little bit some background noise where I may have to speak louder just to let you, and you guys know where I'm at, by the way. But I wanted to just go over this. I wanted to cover this topic I felt was really important about the connection to the Wizard of Oz. And like I said, I may have to do a follow-up of part 2. I want to start touching on the redemption series again, going back over the basics. I think it's still important for even people that feel they're advanced, by the way. If sometimes we forget about things, it's good to go back to the very basics, by the way. Or if someone else, newbies out there, have questions, or someone you're trying to help out, help inform, to become red pill, by the way, or they're close to being red pill, it's good to start off with the Wizard of Oz, the story. So as we went over, Kansas was no longer just plain old Kansas. It was now KS, an artificial corporate venue of the bankrupt United States, newly established federal territory, part of the federal zone. And Dorothy and Toto were in this state now. You see the symbolism. On her journey in this unfamiliar land, Dorothy meets up with 3 unusual characters, each having certainly a different problem or aspect as portrayed on the silver screen, but their true identity has been decoded, and it follows. Okay, we scroll down. Okay, the first was the Scarecrow. I kind of touched on earlier. A man of straw, a front, and he identified his straw man persona for Dorothy. Some people without brains do an awful lot of talking. Now, remember, I stated in the court system, the legal term for straw man and legalese is in lingus. They also refer to as I've heard some instances where judges have tried to assist people. They've asked people, are you referring to the deceit in the state? I forgot about that. The decedent, the legal fiction, some refer to as an entity. It's a different type of corporate entity than an LLC or C corp, but it is a form of a corporation. The concept, like a corpse, when they say you see a dead, deceased corpse, because the concept is when they created these contracts, the government needed to do business with you. It's based off of a dead entity, a deceased entity. So contractually, when you sign your John Hancock, your signature, you give up, which is worth a lot, by the way. And cryptically, that's at the actual property, not just tangible real estate, but your signature is a conduit when you enter into different contracts. By the way, it's very important, even if done electronically, by the way. And that's why there has to be certain rules and things in place to get your consent. That's part, of due process of law, to be given proper notice. Like I had something happen not too long ago with the current company I'm with, where my due process was violated because I wasn't notified when a certain individual went behind the scenes and changed my withholding information. I just came across, as I was doing a job search, just on a side note, where there was a company out there, they let their employees actually access a portal online. Many things are being done digitally. Like I hear Amazon, it wasn't Amazon, it was some other company. They may let you do it as well. But this other company I checked into actually lets you, and it mentioned when I was looking at their what do you call it, for their review when you're applying for a job, like their notice for hiring, they said they let their employees access the portal to change their withholding information. But I had a certain individual that worked for this company that just, when they changed over to became a different company, went into my file and changed things without permission. So I've been doing the legwork and really been considering filing some complaints with multiple agencies. Just on a side note, I kind of touched on it in the past. I've looked also into some other things as well. By the way, very egregious, bold behavior by certain individuals. And I've spoke with someone that worked in corporate America, and they said they weren't supposed to do something like that. But, people nowadays just think they can get away with whatever with no consequences. But that's also where the people, live people, we come into play, where it's important to enforce things that people think they can just get away with stuff if things are not being enforced either. That's also up to the people to file complaints or take things to the next level, even though I don't like to really contract, because I understand with the legal system is being used as a form of entrapment, because there's not a lot of people that are trained about the private side. That's why I'm also going over this information, by the way, to show when we deal with the fictional world, the way things are set up, but there is a private side, and that certain individuals that operate that do know how to access the lawful side. And I saw a comment from someone a while ago that was trying to explain to me, saying I didn't know how to access the lawful side. I understand it. It's just a bit frustrating because throughout the years, a lot of things have changed and in a very corrupt manner. These people that are behind the curtain have done some very dishonorable, deceitful things, very, very dishonorable, very deceptive. And there's literally the meetings I used to attend years ago, group out of word of mouth. By the way, they used to say freedom is not free, but you don't want to be free and dumb. They said the word freedom, there's a play on the words, like freedom. They would say library is to lie and bury the truth. Library. I'm trying to think if there were some other words that were symbolic, like attorney means a turn, to twist. If you look up a turn, attorney means a twist on you, to a turn, to twist. If you look up a turn, the prefixes and suffixes are where a lot of these words, where they derive from. It's important to study other languages, study linguistics. You'll have a better understanding. That's what my friend, who's more advanced than me, helps out tremendously with his skill set and I'm getting better. And down the road, I want to help you guys understand who is who the bad guys are, and translate last names, by the way, which I've done in the past. Some of you all out there have expressed that you wanted me to do like a follow-up with those types of things. And hopefully down the road, if I ever do get around to starting a Patreon or subscription service or get a website, I can start going more in depth. I also have the ability, since I have Zoom, where I may be able to create a private membership so I can do Zoom classes for those interested in further education. But also the other things that I go over are equally just as important, because there's some new information I came across, very powerful information that will behoove many that are still in the public, that are not totally on the other side, that would need to know about, because there's some things, of course, coming down the pipeline, by the way. So getting back on topic, I was going over deciphering the connection with the Wizard of Oz to the straw man, the legal fiction, legal person they refer to in the court system, also the lingus. It says some people without brains do an awful lot of talking. I read that part. Of course, I'm not bright about doing things. I'm reading from this excerpt of this paragraph, and in the classic song, If Only I Had a Brain, the Scarecrow / straw man succinctly argued, I'd unravel every riddle for every individual. See, it's tied in with individual and trouble or pain. Individual is also, just like look up the word definition of the word person, individual is also a corporation. They're not just referring to physical people, flesh and blood, men and women. Look up, there's a difference between the definition of natural person and person. A sister I was working with some years ago, some of the Black's Law dictionaries, they took out the definition of natural person, where there's a section, if you're looking up certain words, it will say see natural person, but it won't contain the actual. You may have to go back to older versions specifically, but you can also do a Yahoo Google search, since there's encyclopedias, and look up, there's a difference between natural person and the definition of the term person, by the way. Very important to look up. And also individual, by the way, those are also referred to as entities. Yes, slightly different types of corporations versus LLCs and C corps, but there is a connection. And going back to the concept is that in order to engage in these contracts, when you conduct business with the government, you need a transmitting utility. So they wanted you to use like the all caps name some people refer to as the straw man in the court system, the lingus, the legal fiction, legal person. By the way, it's considered a deceased entity because a corporation cannot speak. So when you operate in this fictional world because you need to receive what they have called benefit privileges, by the way, because they put everybody in their matrix, those who have never been made aware of the private side or how to access the private side of the lawful realm, the realm of equity, by the way, where they say only certain lawyers and judges have been taught or trained in equity at certain schools, such as maybe as Yale, Harvard, Princeton, Cambridge, and there's a certain type of law, I forget specifically, it's close, that they're taught to distinguish between the statutory side versus the non-statutory side. Because remember, go back to the Erie Railroad versus Tompkins case of 1938 that changed most of the courts in this country from common law to de facto courts under colorable law, color of law, which are statutory in the statutory realm. So you see, they got away from the de jure government. De jure is a Latin term that dealt with organic government. This is what, if you've heard of continental breakfasts, or if you've heard of commonwealth of certain states, this is going back close to the de jure government when we operated under common law, where states had their own rights. It's supposed to be a separation of powers, by the way. That's why that mandate for that poison they want you to get is clearly unconstitutional. Fortunately, many judges and lawyers, federal judges, I commend out there that understand the Constitution, which is the supreme law of the land, that can properly decipher the rule of law, which is explicitly clear and concise, by the way. And when you read the First Amendment of the Bill of Rights, by the way, it's very clear in the language.
333, you have a run pending.
By the way, hold on a second. Turn this down. So you guys know I'm getting ready to get out of here. That's why I may shut this video down. Just need to hear this.
What's the location,
over? Okay.
ABF Freight 6250 Inkster Road. Zone 4 gate.
Okay. Okay, I'm back, guys. Fortunately, I don't have to worry about that, but I've said a mouthful so far. Hopefully I might check the other window, by the way. Should pull up if there's the chat. I'm not sure if the chat section is pulled up. I can't see it from my end, from my on my laptop, so I don't even know. It says, looks like you're using an older version of our browser. Please update it to use live chat. Okay. Wow. So I was not able to use the chat. So thank you guys for joining so far. I just checked the window. Says I'm on my laptop versus my desktop. So unfortunately, I guess that's why you all have not been able to join, by the way, the chat section. So I have to figure out what to do with that down the road. So I'm going to go back to the next my other screen, hopefully. Trying to find out where's my Zoom screen. Okay. Well, I'm going to get ready to shut things down. So I was reading from that particular paragraph that dealt with the straw man. I was flowing so far. It seems like it's been raining. It was torrential downpour too, by the way. So it's one of those nights. I was going to try to come before you guys earlier. Turn that down. I was going to try to go before you guys earlier. So I do apologize, but I've been meaning to cover this topic. Seems like when I get in the flow of things too, that certain entities or the spirits, certain entities want to intervene, by the way, when I'm putting together a good video. But it is for what it is. I'm going to come probably down the road, piece together a part 2 to this follow-up. So with that being said, guys, you can follow me at Dorsey's Resource. I'm on Facebook at Dorsey's Resource. I'm also on Twitter at Dorsey's Resource. When I get a chance, I'm going to have to copy and paste my my other information where to follow me at on social media from my previous video, by the way, which should have that information. I'm also on Parler. Parler's back up, by the way. They have their own servers. I'm on minds.com. I'm also on Rumble, and I've stressed this. It's going to take me some time, a little bit of time, because I'm in, circumstance. I've been dealing with, gatekeepers, by the way, entities and things of that sort, trying to put a thwart and things, by the way. So to give you guys a heads up, I'm still here. The marathon will continue. Real legends never die. They live in our hearts forever. You guys out there have a blessed and wonderful morning. We're now into the morning, from the night going into the morning. Until next time, deuces. Welcome. Take care, I should say. I said welcome. All right. Peace.